Traveling the Vortex.
We've joined Missy as she travels the vortex and arrive at episode 503.
Record scratch!
Nothing says stop everything like the sound of obsolete technology malfunctioning. I'm Keith.
I'm Sean.
And I'm Glenn.
How are you guys?
Pretty good. Although
not malfunctioning, I hope.
I would do much better if my obsolete technology stopped malfunctioning.
You have a lot of it at your place, so.
I do have a lot of it. I actually had to replace one of my wireless mics this week.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, that's not good. This cord looks broken.
Did you guys do anything fun or productive this week?
Mel and I went and saw Venom, Let There Be Carnage.
What'd you think?
It was a lot of fun. It was a very satisfying sequel to that movie. It managed to, in a different way, completely pull the standardized, it's the second movie, our superhero has to lose their powers or go through a crisis of self-conscience. But did it in a unique way. And you're right, everybody kind of stepped up to the same level of Tom Hardy. Although, honestly, the first 40 minutes, just listening to him and Venom fight, all in his head, you could do a whole movie of that without a bad guy, without a plot, without just let him go. They're arguing over dishes. Okay, I'd watch that. It was so funny. And then the end was pretty cool. And then the stinger at the end of the end, whoa, ho, ho.
Sort of blew my mind. I didn't think they would go there, but
I didn't either.
That's
now
all we'll say.
I'm really curious.
That's all we'll say. I know that Keith's already been spoiled on it, but I don't want to.
I know about the stinger. I don't know about the end.
Okay, I don't want to ruin anything with the.
Yeah.
I don't want to ruin anything for anybody.
Post-credit scene. Yeah.
There's no post-credits. That was a mid-credit, I think. It was
okay. Well, whatever.
Yeah, just the one. But what a one.
Yeah. Wow.
When you got one like that, that's all you need.
Yeah.
Yep.
Exactly. Keith, did you do anything this week?
Not really.
You got kids, so they keep you busy enough, right?
We went to the Sunset Zoo in Manhattan and saw the albino wallaby. That was pretty cool.
Oh, yeah.
Is it cute?
It is cute. Well, kind of. As much as an albino creature can be cute. Kind of looks like a rat. A giant rat that hops around. But, the other baby wallaby was cute. And it's really not that small either.
Succotash. Look at the size of that thing.
It's huge, actually. It's a pretty big... Considering it just emerged from the pouch, I don't know how it fit in the pouch. Either that or it's grown a lot in like the 2 weeks since they posted a picture of it.
We didn't do much this weekend. I finished watching Jessica Jones, so I'm finally getting caught up on my all of my potentially, it was for a little while potentially non-connected, potentially non-canonical Marvel Universe, but I'm kind of changing my mind now.
Did that have 3 seasons or just 2?
That one had 3. That one and Daredevil had 3. And then
I don't think I got the season 3.
Luke Cage, Iron Fist, and The Punisher got 2 seasons each.
That's right.
It's pretty good. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I watched Daredevil just, about a month ago, finished season 3 of it. And so I was going to say I'm all caught up on the Netflix Marvel stuff, but that's not true because I have to finish season 2 of The Punisher. And then the plan is to go finish Runaways, which I got about, I think, a third of the way through the second season of Runaways, and it was just really not grabbing me. And so I bailed on it. I'm trying to decide whether to go back and start season 2 again or just pick up where I left off. And then I've still got season 2 of Cloak and Dagger to watch, and I've still got Hellstrom to watch. although all of them are very, very loosely connected. So, but we'll see. I mean, I kind of want to have everything under my belt. So, not that it might matter later, but it might matter later. So, anyway, you guys. Oh, and then we're going through the Disney Plus series again with Holly, and we're halfway through Falcon and Winter Soldier now. So,
Oh, nice.
yeah.
How's she dealing with it?
She really liked WandaVision a lot. She hasn't really said much about Falcon and Winter Soldier. She's not a big fan of the Winter Soldier character. She's never really liked him. And I told her, I think going into this one, maybe you'll change your mind. And she's not changed her mind yet, but we'll see. We'll see. She's not hating it by any means. In fact, she was the first one to say, let's watch it last night. So that's a plus with her.
That's a good sign.
Right. And then the other thing I did was I played the newly released Doctor Who: The Edge of Reality, which released I think on Friday, and it's on PlayStation, Xbox, and Steam now. And this is the one that's been a long time coming with David Tennant and Jodie Whittaker as the 13th and 10th Doctors. And I'm only a couple of levels in, but I'm really thoroughly enjoying it. It's very immersive. The idea is, well, when you start, this doesn't spoil anything because this is the very first scene, you're doing your laundry in a laundromat. And you basically can go around and open dryers and just stuff like that. And then there's this weird like glitch, and then suddenly it's like this kind of post-apocalyptic scene inside this laundry room. And the 13th Doctor pops up on a screen and starts telling you we need help. There's a reality virus that's been let loose, and you have to kind of help her uncover what has caused this. And she's can only communicate with you briefly at certain times. And the first level is really cool because you're going through a Dalek invaded London, and everything's just this really destroyed red. There's these Dalek ships going back and forth with spotlights on the ground, and you have to avoid getting into the spotlight. Go through and you put together basically a communication device to communicate with her. And then the TARDIS materializes, and you get in it, and you're off. It's kind of neat because it's a lot of puzzle-based things. So you have to kind of find things, figure things out. Some things are obvious, some things aren't so obvious. In fact, when I had to quit today because our power went out, I was right in the middle of making these lasers go the right direction, and it was driving me crazy. In fact, I was kind of grateful the power went out because I really needed to take a break from that anyway because it was driving me nuts. I haven't got really hung up on anything except for that. But there's a lot of great puzzles. There's a lot of little Easter eggs. You'll find little pieces. I've so far found the 7th Doctor's umbrella, the 5th Doctor's hat, Ace's bat. There's little things through that like that peppered throughout the game. So try to go everywhere and look at everything because you'll find these kind of things and pick them up. And then you're picking up also sheets for journal entries, but I haven't quite figured out what those are yet. So, but it's neat. It's a lot of fun. It's very immersive, and I highly suggest. It's only $25, which was surprising for a console game. And I think anybody that has a console or a PC computer, I really think they should pick it up and give it a shot. So
you're playing on Xbox?
I'm playing on the Xbox. I've recorded a few clips, and I think I'll probably put some of them together and put them up on our YouTube channel so that people can take a look, see what they think.
How much was said game?
$25.
Not even bad.
Yeah. I'm not sure how long it is for $25, but it's that same group that did the mobile game too. It's just Maze Theory, I think, is the group. So, anything else?
And it is VR compatible if you have VR, right?
It is VR compatible, but you do not need VR in order.
You don't have to have it.
Right.
Usually, I think the VR games are a bit shorter, just because it's a lot more processing power.
Yeah, that's true. All right, well, let's move on to some news. Not much news this week, but
Just the trailer.
the trailer was released. We finally got a look
Kind
at
of
the
our
season.
first glimpse.
What'd you guys think?
Got me excited.
I think I read an article where they were surmising from this trailer that this is going to be sort of the Doctor Who multiverse of madness, is what they were speculating. That it appears that there's going to be some like really timey-wimey stuff that kind of is universe breaking. And they, of course, speculated that the reason for that might be so that they can kind of put things back together for RTD when he comes on board. But I don't know if I agree with that. But it does kind of look like, with the lines, their focus on the lines on that they're similar to the ones on Jodie's jumper, and they're at the end kind of like unraveling, which I thought was kind of a neat visual in that video, in that trailer.
See, I got the impression from the trailer that they were re-raveling.
They were what?
They were apart. They were apart and coming together. Am I remembering this part wrong?
It looked to me like
Aren't they, like,
they're unraveling at the
joining?
end. Well, maybe they are rejoining because they are on the end of it.
And it looks like they're kind of coming back in, like unraveling in reverse.
It could be.
My initial gut reaction was that it was unraveling. Which, on the one hand, if we're doing a big multiverse Doctor Who story, okay, that's kind of cool. But, am I wrong? Haven't we had several different story arcs about how that's not the way this works in the Doctor Who universe? That, it's rare to see a parallel dimension, that they don't normally deal with that, and it's very, very oddball rules, exceptions kind of times that it does happen, like Pete's World or the Antimatter Universe or something along those lines.
Yeah, they kind of. I think you're right.
I mean, I seem to remember that because obviously with a Marvel or any of those kinds of things, you can go, oh, it's a multiverse, and suddenly that explains away a whole multitude of sins. But I was fairly certain that Doctor Who had never chose to pull the trigger on that particular plot point because they had said you can't do it.
They've said you can't do it. They've said you can't do a lot of things that Chibnall's kind of gone and done. So
that's true too. So I don't know. There's a part of me that's very hopeful that that's what it is, just because it would allow for that. For as much as we complain about a reset button, I kind of feel like we need a reset button. But at the same time, it's like, I don't know. I could go either way with it. It depends on how it works out.
As much as I love Doctor Who, they've never really been, on top of the trends as far as storytelling goes. They've cut some foreground and cut a path in some aspects, but in other parts they've always been kind of a little bit behind. Where
like Dr. Mysterio.
Yeah, like that sort of thing. It's always been several years behind the fact. So the fact that they might be trying to do a multiverse story when everyone else is doing multiverse stories doesn't seem likely to me. Mm-hmm. And just based off the trailer, I don't get that. And trying to extrapolate that out of the graphic of the rainbow coming apart or coming together, whichever it is, seems like a huge stretch to me.
I just rewatched it, and it's clearly coming apart.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because it's on the end, on the left or on the right hand side, which you would think was coming back together, but if you look at it, it's completely spreading apart as the camera pans to the right. You could definitely tell that it's coming apart.
Of course, one could also extrapolate from that it's the Doctor herself is coming apart.
Yeah. Oh, I think there's a lot you could read into that.
Less to be said about the universe. I mean, you can take anything from that sort of thing.
Right.
I think we're getting the return. Go ahead.
No, I suppose it could also be that, everybody who's saying, whoever they are, that they are speculating that this means this. Is it possible that they are angry fanboys upset over the Timeless Child and are grasping at any straw to see it undone.
That could be, but I don't think the article I read was in either Radio Times or the Metro, and it seemed like an author that was pretty, a writer that was pretty, grounded and not a naysayer. So I don't know.
What do you guys think of the Sontaran redesign?
Yeah, I think that's kind of cool. It's actually not even it's not even a redesign. It's a retro design.
Yeah,
I think that's great. I've don't get me wrong. I like the design of the Sontarans that we've gotten in the new series, but it'll be it's kind of nice and interesting to see that. And I'm excited to find out if they address it even, if they address why the designs are different. So
I hope they do.
Variations in the clone batch.
Yeah, I mean, and it makes sense that eventually or at some point there's been variations, and the fact that they've looked so different every single time up until the new series for the most part. Mm-hmm. I like the change.
I think that I saw Ood in there too, so that's kind of neat that we're getting the Ood again. And then, of course, we got, as they're calling it, Dollar Store Chewbacca, too. So,
and the Weeping Angels, we saw.
Oh, we did. Yeah, we saw Angels.
And Cybermen.
He's favorite.
And I think, based off the Cybermen showing up, I think the other ones, I'm trying to look up the name because I can't remember off the top of my head. The crystal people that were talking to her. I think we're going to see a return of the Telos race.
Oh,
that's my prediction. Okay. They're the crystal Telosian people that were in Attack of the Cybermen.
Right. Huh. Yeah.
Putting it on record now.
That might be cool stuff. I'm excited. It's almost here. We've only got a couple more weeks out, so
yeah,
we're getting there.
I've forgotten how chaotic this time of year is, where it's the run up to the new show and we finally have a date, and I kind of figured we'd be milking that bit of news for a couple of weeks, but no, we're being inundated with, okay, now that we've given you that, here's this and this, and it's kind of like, oh yeah, they do it this way, don't they? It's like you can't keep up with the news in the 3 weeks before Doctor Who comes back because there's just so much news.
Yeah, even the news that Chibnall wrote all the episode except for one which he co-wrote. Which makes sense doing a 6-part story.
Yeah, but I wonder how much of that had to do with COVID too. I mean, because they were putting all this stuff together in 2020, and so he probably didn't have a lot of contact with writers or opportunities. So
I'm hoping it will kind of help the story and his show running in general, because Broadchurch was so well done and he wrote every single episode. Mm-hmm. So I'm wondering if he's this sort of writer or showrunner that just needs to write everything.
Yeah.
So it all fits cohesively together without too much dispersion.
Maybe so.
I'm hopeful that means that we'll get, something more on par with the Children of Earth cohesiveness than A Miracle Day. Not to pick on Torchwood.
Right. No. That's a fair.
Well, the shorter run is also a good indication.
Yeah.
Now, technically, this marks the first 6-parter for Doctor Who since, the classic series. So we'd have to go all the way back to Invasion of Time?
Yeah, I think they're overselling that 6-parter thing. I think that this season probably will be more of a continuation than we've had in series in the past, but I really think each episode is still going to sort of be centered around one topic that'll kind of work into the next. So I hesitate to say this is like a typical 6-parter. I think it's a 6-part story, but I would hate to liken it to something that we've had in the past where it's an actual, like a 6-part story where you have to have all 6 parts to get the entire story. This one you have to do that too, don't get me wrong. But I think each one of these will still be a little bit start and resolve, but have a continuing story arc that's a little more weaved in than it has been in the past. So
probably closer to a bad wolf.
Yeah, closer to a bad wolf than a Miracle
I would
Day.
expect it. Yeah, well, and I would expect it to be a bit more involved than Bad Wolf.
Yeah.
Like the episode itself would be the B plot, and each episode is its own B plot instead of having a B plot that runs throughout the whole season.
Yeah, somewhere between Bad Wolf and Children of Earth.
Gotcha.
But you're right. If it is in fact a 6-part story, although the episodes they have episode titles, right? Although that
I have not seen them.
That didn't stop them in the very early 60s, I guess.
That's
All right. Anything else on the trailer that you guys want to chat about? Was there anything else in there that jumped out at anybody? I think, is it John Bishop? Is that the guy that's the other companion? I actually just seen the few scenes that he's in. He seems like he might be a lot of fun, so be interesting.
Yeah, he had a nice quippy line there.
Yeah. He had a couple of them, actually.
Yeah.
All right. Well, should we move on to this week's review? We're doing part 2 of the Missy Series 1 box set. Starting with...
The first one, The Broken Clock. Tonight on Dick Zodiac's America's Most Impossible Killers, Detective Joe Linwood hunts the most impossible killer of his career. There's a trail of bodies, impossible bodies, and Joe has one long night to solve the case. Luckily, D.I. Missy Masters from Scotland Yard in London, England, is here to help.
Bum, bum, bum.
Go ahead and start, Sean.
When this started, I was quite excited, and you're gonna do kind of an unsolved mysteries, I thought that was clever. And then about a third of the way, maybe not even that long into it, I began to get annoyed with the particular type of storytelling and how the over dramatization of the unsolved mysteries portion of it was going. Then they began throwing curveballs when, as Missy is wont to do, with suddenly everybody's self-aware that they are in this thing, or at least our detective is, and it kind of fell into where are you going with this? Like it just threw me really, really bad. And ultimately, I just kind of decided, just shut up, let it go, and enjoy the ride, and they'll explain it at the end, or they won't, and then you can talk about it. And they, I think, for the most part, kind of satisfactorily explained what was going on. I thought the twist with who exactly the pointy bearded gentleman was quite cool. Didn't see that coming at all.
Yeah.
And once we got to the end reveal of it being kind of a loop situation for the detective, that was satisfactory enough to explain away the most of how this wasn't working for him. I don't know that it explained enough of it away. And I'm torn on this because I want to applaud it for taking a different approach to the storytelling, but I don't know that approach worked, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. But I did enjoy the story enough to kind of let it go and be like, all right, I give it a pass because I had fun.
I had kind of the same reaction. I was not really enjoying the way it was structured and the way they were presenting it until Missy came along. And then once Missy got there, I was a little bit more, okay, they're doing a bit more tongue-in-cheek than I thought they were originally. So I started letting a lot more of it slide. Mm-hmm. And I wound up enjoying the story for the most part, not as much as I did the first two in the box set. Partially, I think, because of the format of the storytelling they were trying to do. And I do applaud them for doing something different and something unique, which I'm not aware of Big Finish doing in the past. And it's very of the moment, unlike Doctor Who normally. Big Finish usually does keep their finger on the pulse a little bit more, and all the criminal podcasts that have been coming out and all that sort of stuff really lends to that sort of kind of mocking of that storytelling format. But overall, I'm not sure the wrap up and the resolution really kind of was supported by the structure. I don't feel like I got enough quite out of the story and as good of understanding as I could have if it were a traditional tale.
I liked it. I kind of would echo some of the things you guys are saying, although I think that what was most frustrating about it is the fact that we had two very good stories. And this one, I just didn't feel like I was enjoying it for most of the same reasons you guys were saying. For it felt like it was a little over the top. It felt like it was kind of driving that narrative until it, until the Missy reveal, and she kind of takes over the narrative, which I thought was a neat twist, as you guys were saying as well. I'm with you, Keith. I felt that I appreciated the effort for how they were doing it, and it was very topical, making fun of these crime podcasts and crime TV series that are really popular. I think that for me the ending of it and the reveal maybe made the ride worth it for me. Because I liked the end. I liked the reveal of the fact that this was her. Well, yeah, it was her TARDIS. I liked the idea of her having to trick pilots into, flying the TARDIS for her because she couldn't. So I thought that the end of it really made the ride a little more enjoyable. So when I got done in hindsight, I thought, okay, well, it was worth it to get there. But unfortunately, it was just worth it to get there for me. I think it could have been a much stronger story. And I think that the device was clever, but just not enough for me to go, oh, yeah, that was really good. So
I think I just also wanted more of, exploration of Mark and the fact that her TARDIS was so advanced and saw such horrific things it became sentient, and her trying to convince him to let her drive it again. I want that part. Once that revelation happened, I was like, okay, yes, but then there wasn't enough of that to help me get over the ride I had to go through to get there.
Yeah, I would agree. And there's a lingering fanboy question over, well, aren't all TARDISes sentient? I mean, they're all telepathically linked to their pilots. We've certainly seen that the Doctor's TARDIS has a mind of its own. Just maybe not quite as directly applied, but again, I can let that go because it's a cool idea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then I agree, Keith. It more of exploring that story and less of the detective. But then if you cut back the detective, you lose the look at the nifty unsolved mystery framework that we've set up. So it kind of reminded me a little bit of one of the found footage stories where it's a nifty gimmick, but the only reason to do it is because of this gimmick.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You don't have to tell this story in that manner. You could have told it as a straight-laced, just boom. You could have done it as a noir, hard-boiled detective story, and that, I think, would have worked, too.
Mm-hmm.
But, the fact that they chose to do it in this manner is like, okay, that's cool. It's different. We've not heard that before, whereas we have heard, the noir stuff. But then it's you still have to make it work for me. Mm-hmm. If you're going to tell me the story, I need to be able to believe that there's a better rationale for how this fits. Especially, again, if you don't make them sentient, okay, then that leaves out that portion of it that I have a problem with.
Yeah.
And you're telling the story in this way. If you're going to make him sentient, you got to have a good reason for it, and I feel like it has to play into the narrative of the narration. And as it was, well, who was narrating it? Because the narrator is omniscient and he knows all, and he's giving all this information, and then he is proven to be a construct of the cop's mind, and he disappears at that point. Well, okay, so how does that work within the I mean, I guess maybe it still works because the cop is, but that's not his future self, so he's not aware of it. I don't know. There's just a lot of question marks that raises that don't quite gel for me.
Right.
And the other thing that I sound like I'm nitpicking. I did enjoy the story. The other thing that I think both of these stories commit the cardinal sin of is, hey, we've got this great story about Missy. Okay, where is she?
Yeah.
Because both of these focus a lot on the guest cast, on the newcomers, on the and especially the next one. Missy's very much relegated to the background of that one. And it's just like when you have a sheer force of personality like her, and you have an actress who is phenomenal as Michelle Williams is, to go over the top and play this character, you give them the spotlight and the microphone and back away and just let them go. And I feel like both of the, we got that a lot in the first two, and we didn't so much in these. So there's definitely a falling off. Like I said, I still enjoyed the story. I still had fun with it, but there were some problems.
Yeah.
I do have to say the guy who did the voice of Mark did a very good Delgado.
Oh, he did.
And it was almost a mix of Delgado and Ainsley at the same time.
Mm-hmm. And it was very cleverly done with how, well, he's in this glass box, so he's coming through all muffled and everything, and it was just enough of a hint that, oh, well, that's who this is. But then they pulled the rug out from under us on that, and we got the other part of the reveal where he's actually the avatar of this TARDIS, and then you hear him inside, and it's like, oh, no, he's really that kind of good. That's very cool.
Yeah.
I appreciated that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's move on to the next one.
The Belly of the Beast. Missy's scheme nears completion. All she must do is subjugate one little planet and bend the inhabitants to her will. Not too much to ask, but slaves will keep rebelling. It's almost as if they don't want to unearth an ancient artifact to fulfill Missy's plans for universal domination. She'll have to do something about that.
Uh-oh.
I can't
Nah.
do it.
Yeah, this was to me the weakest story of all of them. I'll start. I think that where this one falls down, and John touched a little bit on this in the review of the Broken Clock, that Missy is, for this being Missy's box set and this being the finale of this box set, she's sorely underused. And in all of the other stories prior, even to a point, the Broken Clock, you're sort of, I mean, I don't think we're meant to root for Missy, but she at least, it becomes a sympathetic character for us in certain, in a certain light or in a certain way of looking at it. And I feel like all of the other stories kind of did that, where I was at times rooting for Missy, going, okay, I see what you're doing here. I'm okay with this, even though you're the bad guy, you've been the bad guy in Doctor Who. And I think that the soft sell in that always goes to that redemption year when she was, trying to be good. But this one, I don't like the idea of Missy. I like that Missy has a goal. She has an ultimate, and maybe this was to remind us, hey, by the way, this is still the Master. But I didn't like the playing chess with these characters in the flippant disregard to the fact that they have these memories, and she's playing God in this one, and it's really kind of a turnoff. And I never get the other thing is you have to look at this is if this story had made me sympathetic for its heroes, if it had given me something to appreciate them for, but it was so random and sporadic, and it didn't follow you weren't exactly sure what was going on, which was the point of that, was so that we had the big reveal that they're clones, it's over and over again for them, they've been giving these memories, but it kind of falls flat for me after two really good stories, one decent one, and then to end the box set with this. Now, the end of it, I like the fact that we did this big cliffhanger ending, knowing that we're going into another box set, and hindsight's 2020. Now there's 4 box sets total, so we know this is going to go on. I don't know that I'd want every box set to cliffhanger like this one did, but it's not outside of Missy's MO. Anything she does in this is just, it leaves a sour taste in my mouth, because you've given me a reason to like Missy until this story, and I kind of felt like it was the weaker of the 4.
I think those are all very good points. I wasn't as thrilled with the cliffhanger, because once it finally revealed in the last 2 minutes what she's been doing this almost whole box set of why she got the part from the monk's TARDIS, and why it seemed pretty clear to me why she wanted her old TARDIS back. I mean, yeah, why wouldn't she? Right. But then to tie it all together of, I've now got the master TARDIS, ha 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 ha. Well, that's kind of a cool cliffhanger. It's like, okay, well, that's really cool. I waited through all of this to get to that, and now I want more of that. Yeah. So it left me a little frustrated, because the story wasn't as good as I would hope, leading up to something that could potentially be really interesting. That being said, this story, I think what I liked about it, I think comes down to the production of it, because it very much feels like a classic Doctor Who story, even down to the music has a lot of classic Who aspects to it that I really appreciated. That's my biggest. Yeah, that part was great. Because the rest of it, as you pointed out, Glenn, is kind of you got these characters that aren't really that likable, and it's to me, it was pretty clear early on that once the reveal happens, once what's-her-face wakes up the first time, that they're clones, and they're all clones, and there wasn't a lot of other wow reveals that happened for me, other than the fact that they were inside a giant creature. Okay, that's okay, but not really too shocking, I guess. I don't know, just the whole thing just kind of laid there and wasn't that impressive.
There's something
other than the production level.
Yeah, there's something early on too that gives that whole inside the belly of the beast. I mean, besides the title, now that I think about it, but there's something early on that gives away, or gives you too maybe heavy-handed of a clue that they're inside some sort of creature, that they're mining inside some sort of creature. And so I felt like when they feel like they're giving you this big aha moment, I thought, well, I kind of suspected that based on a line you dropped earlier, so that's not even a big aha moment. So
yeah,
for me, this one fell down under the underuse of Missy. It fell down under the predictability factor, that I wasn't as astonished at the aha moments as I felt like maybe I should have been. And I'm not going to say that I had it figured out exactly, but then when it was kind of like, oh, okay, well, that makes sense. It wasn't a shocking, what? It wasn't the Master TARDIS reveal. And then it falls down on the Master TARDIS reveal, because it's like, oh, so we're kind of borrowing from Harry Potter now. Okay. I mean, you're going to assemble all these pieces into a super weapon. Yeah. I don't know that we've ever heard TARDISes work that way, but I suppose it's possible. Oh, and that's the cliffhanger, and you're ended. Well, I guess maybe we'll get more of that later. I hope. It felt tacked on almost.
Sure.
Like,
Yeah.
I'm assuming that they knew this is the thrust of this box set, that this was where we were going with it, and we were going to pepper a little bit of it in each story. Unfortunately, it felt like Jonathan Morris got the, okay, and then you wrap it up.
Tie them all together somehow.
Yeah, it's like, what do you mean wrap it all out? Well, we've done this, and this. You fix it. Oh, okay. I mean, it just kind of felt like it was that kind of tacked on.
Sure, yeah.
I did not like any of the characters. I normally in a rebellion situation where we've got our slave labor, you have to have a couple of people that are sick and destitute and not going to make it. Maybe you off one or two of them from the guards to really illustrate how bad the bad guys are. And then you've got the plucky heroes that are supposed to rise up and rally everybody around them. And these guys were all just a bunch of complainers.
Yeah.
All of them were
Yeah.
pretty much cut from the same place. And I mean, don't get me wrong. If the aliens came down and enslaved the planet and stuck me in a mine, I'd be the complainer. But you can't all be the complainer. One person gets that job and everybody else has to do something different. And then, so when this very much not Mexican housekeeper showed up in the last story, I really wanted to laugh along and go, wow, that's the worst impression ever. And it's supposed to be. Mm-hmm. It's Missy doing this disguise. And as soon as they, the giant hump and it's like, oh, okay, it's Missy in disguise. We got a rubber mask. Cool. But then she starts to talk and it's like, I don't know how I feel about this. Because not only was it bad, intentionally, but it was stereotypical. And it kind of wove between stereotypical Mexican, I mean, I'm pretty sure she was French at one point. It just kind of covered the gambit to really illustrate how bad this accent was. But I don't think it worked. I think instead it comes across as insensitive and in very poor taste. So then to resurrect that particular accent as another joke in the next one kind of became like, I didn't
think the accent was the same. I just thought it was a different bad. This one almost sounded German.
I'm with Keith. The first time that she does it, it doesn't sound Mexican at all to me in the first story, and in fact it sounds like she's doing a really bad Asian, Mexican, French, and German accent, like all together. It's like she can't land on it, and then she calls it out as her Mexican accent. And this time I felt sort of the same way, that she wasn't quite making fun of any one accent. She was blending a lot of different ones to emphasize the fact that she's not good with accents. She can't, as much of a master of disguise as the master is, she can't do an accent to save her life. So I was actually okay with it. I also was okay with her calling it Mexican, although she's not Mexican. But her father is from Montserrat in the Caribbean, so she's, Latin American descendants. And so I think sometimes it's a little more forgiving if you're doing it of your own race or your own. But then again, if you're going to do that, why do it so comical? So I don't know. I was a little more forgiving. I can see where you're coming from, Sean. But
yeah, and like I said, maybe I'm being completely too wound up about it. I'm freely willing to admit, especially in light of the fact that, illustrating that she's bad with accents and putting this is worse than Brad Pitt's Italian accent in Inglourious Bastards. I mean, it's that level of hokey, and when you laugh at that one, but I don't know, there was just something about it that just struck me as insensitive, and once I had that thought in my head, then I couldn't get past that. To any of the rest of it. So I'd be curious to know if anybody else felt that way, because I don't know what it was. It just something about it rubbed me the wrong way.
Sure.
And it kind of soured me on the whole thing with that. But, beyond that, it was an okay story. Just kind of, I agree with Keith. I think, it definitely had the classic Who feels. I think it's odd to say this, but apparently if you were ever captured and driven into a slave labor force in the Doctor Who universe, you definitely want to push to be on a Dalek mining squad versus a master mining squad. Because the Daleks at least would allow you to take breaks.
Right.
And,
Yeah.
you know where you stand. You're completely disposable, and at the end of this project, you're going to be killed. But at least you get breaks during the construction phase of
You have
it
to complete the
versus...
project as opposed to you can die in the middle of it.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
Although I suppose if the Daleks were employing clone labor, they might have treated them the same way, knowing that they just can start again.
It's funny. In a way, that's something else that rubbed me wrong about this is the Master. I mean, don't get me wrong. The Master he's the bad guy. And in this case, Missy is the bad guy. I get that. But because we've had this kind of light, sympathetic, almost feel to these stories, and you are kind of rooting for her, you want to give her a pass. And yes, I know historically, when you look at all the mad schemes and mad plots, the Master has killed lots of people. We've enslaved people. We've, brought down airplanes. And I mean, there's been some trauma. And many attempts at world domination, including, the let's turn everybody into the Master. Which still, I think, ranks up there among the most nutty and insane schemes that ever. I kind of love it. But subjugating an entire race of clones and just using them to exhaustion, killing them off, and then repopping them out. I don't know. That seemed almost above and beyond cruel. Like... Oh, now you've crossed a line. I don't know why that's the line. I really don't.
I think I think
all of a sudden you've got Missy kicking puppies, and I'm like, oh no. It's just...
but had they led with this in Capaldi's first season, I don't remember which season it is, but if this would have been her in that season, we would have been all, oh yeah, absolutely. This is calculating and callous Master Missy.
Yeah.
And so we'd have been okay with it. But what they did is after the last season for Capaldi, where she's on a redemption trip, and then the first at least 2 stories of this, we're supposed to have, we have some sympathy for the character. It's it's really a left turn for you.
I think maybe you're right. Maybe that's exactly what it is. Is that Missy has 2 different modes. She's got the cold calculating, yeah, of course she's going to be evil mode, and then she's got this almost more playful and mischievous than destructive.
Yeah.
But this one felt more destructive. It didn't work for me.
Well, I think the fact that she's behind the scenes manipulating things as opposed to being front and center and putting the charm over the horrific deeds makes a difference too.
Yeah. Certainly true.
Yeah, that could be.
She still killed plenty of people in this whole box set. I mean,
That's true.
Especially the last story.
Well, did she though? Those were all Mark.
Well, but she,
I mean, I guess we don't know
to their death.
We don't know what was happening on the missions that somebody else was doing the piloting.
Right.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Well, Sean, what do we got coming up on the schedule?
Well, coming up on the schedule, if you've not had enough Missy, you get a little bit more next week. We'll be back with the Titan Comics Missy number 4 in that run. So the last one of that compilation. There's four issues in that. I can't talk all of a sudden. And then a warm-up for the return of the 13th Doctor, as we'll do Titan Comics 13th Doctor Volume 3, which collects issues 9 through 12 of their first season. And so some comic book goodness for you next week before we delve into the season 13 proper, which we, of course, will then be on New Who schedule for the next 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And beyond that, well, stuff.
Stuff and things.
Stuff and things. Things and stuff.
All right. Well, of course, you can follow updates on travelingthevortex.com. If you get any value out of this podcast, why not consider putting some value back into it? You can do that by clicking on our Patreon link on the website. Consider supporting us there, and thank you to those who already do. Also, please consider giving us a 5-star review wherever you subscribe to this podcast. And make sure you join in the conversation on our listeners forum on Facebook. Anything else before we close this one, guys? If not, until next time, I'm Glenn.
I'm Sean.
I'm Keith.
Cheers.
Good night, everybody.
Be seeing you.
Thanks for listening.
You have been listening to Traveling the Vortex. Doctor Who and all of its associated programs are owned and trademarked by the BBC. No infringement is intended or implied.